So you guys are aware. We're coming for Bife is what we're doing. We're coming for Bife.
These are Spark Note versions of what Bife would explain to you.
Doesn't matter. We're coming.
Consider this to be like the child's meal to Bife's supersized double deluxe multi-course dinner that he would give you. This is a tease.
Look, I appreciate his 4.5 hour videos as much as the next guy, but some people don't have that amount of time. So where are they going to go? They're going to come to Tower Casuals and watch the 5-minute version.
That's true. There's a couple topics I'm specifically avoiding because I just don't know how to condense them, and I really need the time to figure it out. But this week we're talking about the Dreaming City, specifically the Curse of the Dreaming City. If you recall, in the past, we have covered Aramis, Varix, and Mithrax, kind of rounding out our Fallen trio, but kind of tying in to things that we think are going to come into play with Beyond Light. This is going to start a little new saga, kind of covering different characters that are still associated with the Fallen. We're going to cover Mara and Uldren coming up. We're going to cover Callus and the Leviathan. We are going to touch on Xivu Arath and Savathun later on down the road, so they're really not going to be mentioned a whole lot today, even though they are important to the Dreaming City arc. Really want to take the time to flush them out, flush out some of the Orsinium court, talk a little bit about my man Oryx, R.I.P. We got a lot of other plans. Now that this has been expanded out for 2 more months, I can cover everything I wanted to before Beyond Light. But this week is the Curse of the Dreaming City. Of course, if you've played Forsaken at all, you know that the Curse was enacted when Riven was beaten for the first time, but it officially starts when Riven was slain by a team of Guardians. But in reality, the events of this were set in motion by Oryx way back before the Taken King. When he first came into the Sol system, on the eve of him crushing the Awoken army around Saturn, Mara closed off the Dreaming City and evacuated everybody who lived in it. Now, the Dreaming City was created by Mara when she came back from the Distributary, the home of the Awoken. When she passed back through the Singularity, she established it as a safe haven for all of them. And the only way to enter it was the Watchtower within the Tangled Shore part of the reef. She officially seals it off, leaves everybody there, or gets everybody out. The only being left in the Dreaming City is Riven, her pet Ahamkara. Now, if you don't know what Ahamkara is, an Ahamkara is a gigantic space dragon. That's the best way I could think of it. Think of a more terrifying King Ghidorah, and you basically have it.
You fight one in one of the strikes for Warmind, I think.
You do so in Warmind. We fight Zol, one of the Hive Worm gods.
Okay, Hive. Okay,
we fight Riven, Riven herself in the Last Wish raid. So after Oryx crushes the Awoken army, he manages to breach the gates of the Dreaming City, and he begins a siege there. And legions of Taken come in. He offered to take Riven with him, and Riven, realizing that she'd still be enslaved, basically resisted. Like Ahamkara are weird creatures. They grant wishes. So like if the genie from Aladdin and King Ghidorah had a baby and it was kind of like evil, this is basically what it would end up being. Riven ends up being taken anyways, and at some point, Oryx dies, and after that, at undisclosed time later, we don't really know when, Savathun comes to the Sol system and reveals herself to Riven. This is the only known intrusion of Savathun into our solar system as of right now, and that's pretty deep. Like the Dreaming City, the reef, like that's the asteroid belt. That's getting kind of close to Earth, a little too close for my liking, personally. And she reveals herself to Riven. Her and Riven kind of banter back and forth and play these mind games with each other. And Riven asks her to take up the strings because she's been left directionless without a master since Oryx died, because she is taken. But even though she's taken, unlike the Queen's Techians, Shirochi and Kali, she retains her own consciousness. And in doing that, she can make her own choices. Well, when Savathun officially assumes the position of being Riven's master, Riven and her create kind of a shared bond. And Riven is, to put it bluntly, kind of scared shitless by what she sees in Savathun's mind. She catches a brief glimpse of her plans, not just for the Awoken or for the Solar System, and for the Guardians. Eventually, Riven, now being taken and still of her own agency, her powers get amplified, and she can reach beyond the Dreaming City now for influence, and she uses it to manipulate Uldren with the Dark Ether into creating the Scorn, into resurrecting Fikrul, and is indirectly responsible for the creation of the Scorn, the abandonment of the prison, the freeing of the prisoners, the death of Cayde 6. Like, she's responsible for all of that, with the ultimate goal of Uldren coming to her with a shard of the Traveler that he discovers in the EDZ, and using its power to open the gates to the Dreaming City, which have been shut since Mara shut them. And when he finally does that, he thinks he's about to encounter Mara. It ends up being what can only be described as an infected meatball, the voice of Riven, that we slay in the final mission. But Riven basically decides, okay, Uldren serve his purpose, allows the Guardian and Petra to execute him. The end. Part one of Riven's plan has now gone into motion, and by extent, we assume Savathun's. The gates to the Dreaming City are open, the Guardians are called upon to repel the Taken invasion, and now that we know Riven's behind this, a team of Guardians is sent in as a raid. It's really cool that the first team to clear this raid is canonically the team that starts the curse of the Dreaming City. They advance through the raid, they save Kali and Shuro-Chi, being able to reverse their statuses of being taken. And eventually those two Techeuns team up with the Guardians in the Riven boss fight. And when you slay Riven, the Guardians, if you've never done this raid, spoilers for the final boss, you kill Riven, but she's not really dead. You actually rip her heart out, and you run a relay race with it through the halls of the Dreaming City to the Techeuns, who then cleanse the heart, expelling the Taken corruption and basically killing Riven forever. Well, you might be wondering, why on earth is it called Last Wish then? Last Wish refers to the final wish that Riven grants is her home. And by extent, Savathun and her Vexmind Kiras, I don't really know how to pronounce that name, her plan to take over the Dreaming City with a Taken army. And so Taken just start flooding the city in all facets, fighting off what's left of the Scorn, fighting Xivu Arath's hive. It becomes a three-way turf war, hence the Blind Well. Well, when we're doing those Blind Well runs, what we're doing is we're charging the Blind Well in the terms of the story. So that when the third week of the curse comes around, we figured out who's behind all this. It's Savathun's daughter, Dul Incaru. And again, a team of Guardians is sent into the Shattered Throne, into Mara's old throne world. This is why it's called the Shattered Throne. Elusina, her old throne room. And we go in, we kill Dul Incaru. Well, killing her enacts the final part of Riven's wish, which is the cycle starts all over again. Killing Dul Incaru should have ended the curse of the Dreaming City. Instead, it simply made it worse. So the Guardians are left with a moral dilemma, which hence why the cycle keeps going on in game of, do we keep killing Dul Incaru and starting this process all over again? If we go a week without killing her, canonically, like if nobody were to do this, I don't know if it would actually happen, but the theory is that if nobody does it, then Dul Incaru would be allowed to complete her objective, which is to break into the Distributary, through the singularity where the Awoken, a lot of Awoken still reside there. Time is infinite, essentially. Like Mara and the old Awoken who came back lived there for millions of years, hundreds of thousands at the very least, and before they came back. So hence why that they're so wise beyond their years. So the Guardians are faced with this moral dilemma. Well, the loop that we're stuck in, I promise I'm getting towards the end. This is a really, really dense.
I'm enjoying it. I'm just listening. I'm just like
the loop is in actuality a simulation that was enacted by Hura, the Taken Vex Hydra that Oryx once sent into Savathun's throne world to try and manipulate her. The Vex, because of their manipulations with time and their experiments, are able to create a simulation, and Quira simply puts it into effect in the Dreaming City, in essence creating a murder battery for Savathun. So every time we continue the cycle and we don't let Duel and Karu break into the distributary, we are essentially feeding Savathun's power in a twisted turn on the sword logic. We're going to get into sword logic here in a few weeks when we actually cover Savathun, but suffice it to say, she doesn't ascribe to it like Oryx and Crota did. She doesn't worship the sword logic. She just believes in seizing power by any means necessary. And the Hive rely on a tribute system. Well, she doesn't want tribute. She's just going to murder and kill and do whatever she has to do. She has a murder battery going. She literally has a whole murder battery. She's impersonated. It's suspected she's impersonated Eris Morn to us through the Truth to Power lore book, which led to the whole you have to be at power level 999 theory in order to break the curse of the Dreaming City. So people rushed to do it during Season of the Undying. The Glad was coaching the first guy that made it to that light level through the raid solo, and nothing happened, but Bungie played along and had Savathun basically impersonating the community managers the next day. It was really cool. They're really getting into this. I don't fully expect us to break this. I honestly thought it was going to come during Season of Dawn or Season of Worthy, because one of the things we had seen on Luke Smith's whiteboard during last year's Vidoc was reset the timeline. And instead, we've basically learned now that referred to saving Saint 14. That doesn't necessarily line up with breaking the curse of the Dreaming City. So we have to wonder now with darkness powers, when do we do that? Mm-hmm. I think I kind of have come around to the opinion that I think it might be next summer.
So the Tangled Shore and the Dreaming City they're not being vaulted, correct? It's just the
No, just four of the core planets from year one of Destiny 2. Titan, right. Io, Mars, and Mercury will be sunset. Forsaken content. So the moon, the Tangled Shore, the Reef, the Dreaming City, and Nessus will all stay.
So there's at some point we're probably returning to these locations for some sort of thing.
I would expect for them to. I strongly expect the seasonal storyline to start shifting towards setup for the Witch Queen. Because notice how really this year it didn't really set up a ton towards what we know right now about Beyond Light.
Right.
It did a little bit this season, especially is kind of setting up. But this is also really like, hey, Savathun is here. This isn't just something that we're talking about in Savathun's song or in the strike on Io anymore. Like, she is actually here manipulating and messing with our communication with the pyramids. She wants, in a way, she wants the powers of the darkness for herself, we suspect. Mm-hmm. Much like Aramis does, but she's also terrified because the darkness it's reaching out to us, not to her. Mm-hmm. And I think she's afraid of what a Guardian can do when it can straddle the line. Mm-hmm. So I can't wait to show her in September 2021 why she should be scared.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But that concludes this week's extremely long lore corner.
I actually have a question for you. Well, it's more generally for the audience.
Yes.
So the sword logic.
Yes.
What can you explain what the sword logic is for? I mean, in I mean, if it takes longer than I don't know how long it's going to take you to explain it, but
the sword logic is definitely one that we have a plan right now for a couple weeks from now to do its own topic.
Okay.
It ties so much into the Orsinium court and into Savathun's origin herself that it's kind of impossible for us to talk about the sword logic without then going into the origins of the Hive themselves. It's the very foundation, almost the religion of the Hive in a lot of ways. But suffice it to say, the sword logic is you gain power through tribute, not through just straight murder. So the thrall are to be sacrificed to the acolytes, to the knights, to everything is ultimately in service to worm gods like Zol. But the whole thing of the sword logic is Oryx broke that and said, no, we're not giving tribute to that anymore. The tribute comes to us now, specifically to me, because I'm the king. I have the power to take. I seized this power from the worms, and that's it. his exiled son is the one who teamed up with Zol because he's a heretic that does not ascribe to the sword logic. It's very baffling. Think if the worst person you knew in real life went and made their own religion that was based on not just tithe, not like 5%, but like 95% of what you are and what you have goes to them. And if you're lucky, you might get 5% to yourself if you're at the lowest end of that caste system. It's nuts. We actually see a little bit of it play out when you do the escalation protocol event. There's a ogre that will roam around as one of the 7th stage bosses, and a ton of cursed thrall will run at it and blow up, and that'll heal him if they get too close. That is, in a way, that is partially sword logic. Our guardian, if our guardian ever tapped the sword logic, that's how the Hive gods and how Mara Sov herself made these throne worlds to exist and to cheat death. When we go in Kingsfall and go kill Oryx, we're in his throne world when we kill him in the raid. We killed him in the real world already at the end of the campaign. He flees to his throne world to heal and come back stronger, and we murder him the second he comes back.
Yeah.
So, sword logic is really complicated. We'll definitely get into it. I know there's going to be a lot of questions about it, but that requires a much more comprehensive write-up, and you can't really sum it up in a minute or two, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it is a concept that's been around since the Books of Sorrow. That's what a lot of the Books of Sorrow actually deal with.